carbon is the basis of all life on Earth. That carbon dioxide is the source of that carbon for all life on Earth. And it's also true that for the last 600 million years, CO2 has been declining in the global atmosphere to the point where at the peak of the last glaciation, when the oceans absorb more CO2 than they do when they're warm, it was cold, CO2 dropped to 180 parts per million. And that is only 30 parts per million above the death of plants.
Only 30 parts per million above the death of plants?
Yes. If we had not intervened by putting the balance back into the carbon cycle, which was out of balance, because it's life itself that has sucked the CO2 out of the atmosphere over the millennia and put it into fossil fuels, but that's a very minor part of it. Big part of it is what's called carbonaceous rocks, limestone, chalk, and marble. And those are the remains of shells of marine calcifying organisms. Calcium carbonate is what those shells are made of. Carbon in the calcium carbonate is from CO2 that the oceans absorb from the atmosphere. The calcium comes from the seawater. The carbonate comes from the air and is dissolved in the water. And so these huge deposits of shale are actually calcium carbonate. They are the shells of those plankton. The oil and gas is the organic matter of the living plankton that died. 100 million billion tons of carbonaceous rock represent carbon dioxide pulled out of the atmosphere. CO2 has been declining to where it is getting close to the end of plant life. There is no such thing as an excess of CO2 under any real-world circumstance. The optimum CO2 level for plant growth, greenhouse growers, they actually buy CO2 in bottles. They pump it in to get it up to 1,000 parts per million. For plant growth, which, when you think about it, is the basis of all the animal life on Earth. Every insect, every vertebrate, every invertebrate, all the things that are not plants depend on the plants for their existence. The sugars the plants produce through photosynthesis are the energy supply for the whole world. What are those sugars made out of? Water and carbon dioxide. And when you burn fossil fuels, which are the result of photosynthesis, what do you get? Water and carbon dioxide and some contaminants, which we know how to clean. So we should care about the plants. And if we cared about the plants, we'd put the CO2 up to 1,000, and it's only at 400 now. It may not be possible for us to get it to 1,000 just due to the fact that there's only so much fossil fuel. But the other interesting thing is the carbonaceous rocks, limestone, that's what we make cement with. And when we make cement, about 5% of the CO2 emissions from humans today in this world is from cement production. By burning calcium carbonate and creating calcium oxide, which is lime, which is the major constituent of cement, CO2 goes up. So even if we run out of fossil fuels and the CO2 starts going down again, we can keep the CO2 in the global atmosphere at a good level for plants